Welcome back to Chatchit. We are recording on Sunday evening just after our team, the Sydney Swans, has gotten over the line in a huge win against Fremantle at Optus, kicked the final 2 goals of the game, the winning goal inside the last 2 minutes. I was not able to watch it. I'm wearing fancy clothes because I missed the game at work. Aiden, tell me about what you saw.
Well, it was a game plagued by inaccuracy. First quarter, Swans went 0 goals 5. Will Hayward, who's a very accurate kick, missed a few set shots in the first quarter. Throughout the game, both teams struggled with accuracy, whether it was the kicking into the direct sunlight or pressure of the game on both teams. It was a huge, huge game in that round. But Swans get it in the end. I mean, it could have probably put the game to bed in the third quarter. The amount of forward pressure, I don't have the exact stats of forward half turnovers, but they lacked decision-making going into the forward 50. They really could have kicked about 6 or 7 goals in that third quarter and probably won the game. Ultimately, Riley Bice went with the ball, ran around 150 metres off the ball after starting the move to kick his first AFL goal from a tight angle from about 45. Really good goal. If you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it. And then Amani gets the better of Brennan Cox to kick the sealer. And half a second after the final siren, Jaimis takes a mark about 35 metres out, straight in front of goal. Swans open their account for the season.
I only got to watch the last 5 minutes, and I could not believe the commentators weren't going more crazy about the fact that Jaimis took a clean mark probably a half second after the siren blew.
The siren was probably still playing. It was that close.
Oh my gosh. So crazy, and we will absolutely take it. The Swans are not in good form. We have injuries. Obviously I use the word we, but I'm not in the 22 right now. But the key takeaway I've heard from people that watch the game that are sending me texts is Riley Bice is a youngster to look out for.
What a necessary win though. Now they go into the bye. You don't want to go 0-3 into the bye and then have to come off that. You have to think about the 2 whole weeks that we're 0-3. We played a grand final. What's happening? Is it a hangover? You know, all of that. That's gone. Good. Bit of respect in the media. It was a tight game. Wasn't the best quality from both sides. High pressure, but they got it done.
We're going to jump into the whole round, all 18 teams now, or 16 this round. We're going to start off by talking about our top 5 players of the round each. I'll start us off. And my number 5 this week was Connor Rozee. So Port had a little bit of a softie this week to bounce back from their first round. I do say softie even though Richmond were 1-0. And Port were the team that were coming off a loss. But from watching that performance, Richmond, it's sort of, they weren't able to make the comeback like they were against Carlton. They just had less quality, so little experience, and so they are going through a rebuild, and Connor Rozee showed that difference in class more than anyone else.
I like it. I have your man in number 5. Even in a losing performance, I have Sam Darcy.
Oh, wow.
Freak of the competition. And what we saw in the game was something we haven't necessarily seen before, his ability to work up the ground and his in-field kicking. So his kicking on his weak foot, his left side, he'd come up the ground, take a mark, and he'd pick a guy out about 40 metres away on the left foot. Very Buddy-esque. And he carried that team on the back. I didn't see another way Bulldogs could score in that game if it wasn't going through Sam Darcy, and to put that amount of pressure on such a young guy. When they have Norton as well, who's a more experienced player, but he's just a top forward in the competition already.
He just has such a footy sense about him. Like when you talk about something that he's very good at, like in the marking contest, contested marks, there are all the tangible things like athleticism, strength, good hands, like coordination, but his ability to just know where the drop of the ball is going to be, work his way through the bodies in a way that can't really be quantified is so impressive, and something that he's better than Buddy when it comes to contested marking,
100%.
like that particular thing, but he's a really special talent. My favourite player in the league to watch that's not a Swan right now.
I mean, if you get someone kicking it to him at the correct angle and he can meet the ball at its highest point, there is no way you can spoil him.
Yep, absolutely. My number 4 for the round is a guy who is proving a lot of doubters wrong, and that's Jack McRae. Not a whole lot to say about this performance other than clean and prolific. Got so much of the ball. I'll pull up some his stats. 35 touches, led the game in disposals and contested possessions, and led his second in his team for tackles with 10. So he's not just getting soft touches, he's working as well. 10 score involvements, leading the game in that category too. Just an all-round dominant performance.
I like it. It's been good last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Bulldogs stopped playing him as a midfielder really, and a lot of people thought his time wasn't really over. Kane Corns during the week was making some comments that didn't really make sense to me about how he's not really impactful with his touches. Like, you're just saying that because St Kilda lost. Macrae was not the issue round 1, and he showed that this week.
I like it. My number 4, like I said in previous video, I'm doing my best not to just focus on midfielders. I have Charlie Comben at number 4. I think he took a huge step towards his development as a key defender. I think the commentators summed it up perfectly at the end of the third quarter when they said, the Great Wall of Comben.
Yeah.
He just took intercept mark after intercept mark. When Melbourne looked like they were coming, he was just holding it up at the back.
On Charlie Comben, you're going to hear more about him in a minute or so from me. I won't tell you where I have him, but it's not 4, 3 or 2.
Oh, wow. Okay, I like it.
My third best player of the round was Ben Keys.
Yeah.
I just love a guy like Ben Keys that just goes wherever the coach wants him.
He grafts.
Yeah, you think a couple of years ago, all those guys that are a bit smaller and very skilled and just good everywhere, they love to play in the midfield. Ben Keys was pretty much Adelaide's best midfielder 2-3 years ago, and then the coach asked him, you know what, this isn't like our team dynamic isn't working. Can you go up forward? And the way that he's just embraced that role as a pressure forward that kicks a lot of goals too is phenomenal. 4 goals this week with 11 marks coming up the wing to be that connector between the midfield and the forward line. 2 goal assists to go along with his 4 goals, going at 81% with the footy.
There are a lot of players who could have been in the top 5 this week.
Yeah.
I didn't have him in my top 5. I have a guy you've already said. I had Connor Rozee at number 3. Now, I know it was against Richmond, but you have to put it up. They lost by 91 points last week. 2 goals, 39. Captain's performance. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, very, very good. My number 2 was Zach Merritt. Talk about another captain's performance. God, this guy needs help.
Yeah,
I'm going to talk later. We have a hit and miss segment, and I'll tell you right now, my miss for this week was Essendon. Abysmal. They were really abysmal. Zach Merritt was as good as ever, though. 4 goals and 36 touches. Wins 3 free kicks and doesn't give any away. Like, he doesn't really do anything wrong. He's doing all he can for this team. There's deeper issues at Essendon, and this guy needs help.
I like it. I have him at number 1.
Yep.
But my number 2, another North player, I had Tristan Sherry.
Wow.
Not many players get the best of Gawn.
Yep.
And not many players monster Gawn, but he did it in this game. And his 20 disposals at 85%. Ruckmans don't normally do that, and Gawn just couldn't keep up with him.
Yep. He also had 6 clearances in the first quarter.
Yeah.
6 clearances in the first quarter just to set the tone for the game, and ended up with 12 clearances for the match. Yeah. It's just a huge amount of impact. And so many of his taps are right to North's feet. North absolutely dominated that game in the midfield and everywhere, but starting from the midfield, and that's against a midfield of Gawn, Oliver, Petrarca, Viney, that have won a premiership, the 4 of them together.
He's got a very similar build to Gawn, so are we seeing the changing of the guard?
Maybe. My number 1 player of the round was Charlie Comben, who you mentioned, and I just absolutely love what he does. When he's going up for a marking contest, he doesn't try to stick to a forward. He lags behind so that he has a free run at it and jumps. With full all his athleticism, just uses it all, and he always finds a way to get his hands on the ball first before anyone else. I don't think I haven't watched enough North Melbourne footy, but I don't remember him being outmarked in a game that I've watched. Like, he's so good in the air, and so it's so fun to watch. He just tries to mark everything. He's never trying to spoil it. Absolutely loved it. My best player of the round.
I like it. My best player was Zach Merritt, and all I wrote here was needs help.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that a little bit later. We'll move on to the next segment a new segment in 3 guarantees this season. As
we saw this week, there seem to be no guarantees in the AFL season. Week 0, 1, 2, there's so many crazy things going on. You can't really predict the outcome of any of the games. So we're trying to nail down, from what we know so far, what are 3 guarantees that are locked to happen this season. I'll be honest, mine are not really guarantees. They're a little bit cheeky, but you start me off with your first one.
Okay, my episode for me so far has been very North Melbourne themed, and it's going to continue North Melbourne themed. I've got North to win 7+ games this year. So they're finally going to take it late, is my idea, and I think they need to, with the quality they have in their team, which we'll jump into a little bit later during the hits and misses segment. I think they have to win 7+ games, and I think they will win 7+ games.
I love their team, and I think that they just look fantastic.
A big reason for that is my second guarantee. Tristan Sherry will be the All-Australian ruckman.
Wow.
That is my second guarantee.
I was actually thinking of that as a guarantee, but I thought of Tom de Koning. That's the reason I didn't say that.
Also possible. Maybe they'll both be there.
That's what I was thinking. I think there's a very good chance this year, more than any other year, that two ruckmen get selected because Jerry and de Koning,
It was close last year.
like they're poised to be the next sort of Gorn and Grundy circa 2017 to 20, where there's just two ruckmen that are just so head and shoulders above the rest of the ruckmen in the league.
Yep.
I reckon that's what Jerry and de Koning will become.
I'm gonna wrap out my third guarantee of this season. I've just got Levi Ashcroft to win the Rising Star. Just a simple guarantee. He's well above the rest of his class so far this year. He showed it again today.
Very, very good player. My first guarantee is that if he stays healthy, Finn Callaghan comes top 5 in the Brownlow medal race. I think on a GWS team that probably wins at least 14 or 15 games, maybe more, that means votes. He is the best player on that team, the best midfielder on that team, and the umpires notice what he does. I think he'll come top 5 in the Brownlow, and he's my favourite. My second guarantee is Isaac Rankin will get his first All-Australian blazer this year.
Ooh, I like it.
Similar thinking to your Sherry one.
Yeah.
Isaac Rankin, it's nothing to do with stats. You know, if anyone is a football fan, the messy commentary, it's not the statistics. But a niche reference. But Isaac Rankin is just so creative, just like finds a way to be positive and creative no matter how much time he has. Just a really, really fun talent. And it's all set up for him this year to just become a dominant midfielder / half forward and just be picked in the half forward of that forward line in the Australian team. Third guarantee is on your North Melbourne one, but I've taken it maybe a step further considering of what you think of another team. I've gone North Melbourne will finish above Carlton on the ladder. That is my guarantee.
Wow. Okay.
I think
we've gone very different ways in this guarantee segment. I like it. Okay.
Well, they're both positive about North Melbourne. I think North, they're really the story of the round, how they just performed against Melbourne, dismantling them against a pretty healthy Melbourne team, really. And you just loved to watch how they played, contrary to Carlton, who seem to have all this talent and they don't put them to good use. And I think North, with Alistair Clarkson at the helm, I think they are a smoky to compete for finals, and I think they finish above Carlton on the ladder.
I like it. I like that guarantee segment. Let us know what you think of them. Which ones you actually think will be guarantees in the season. I'm not quite sure all of them will be. But we'll move into our next segment in hits and misses.
My hit for this week is Hawthorn, particularly in the context of the teams around them struggling. I think the other teams that we see as the big contenders this year, the main contenders, GWS had a bye and they're still looking good, but everyone else is faltering. Geelong, I thought, was the best before this week. They lost. Brisbane looked very, very shaky against West Coast, and I think Hawthorn are the team that is just looking strong and dominant, and like you can't really find a big weakness in their team. My favourite thing about this hit is how crazy this hit would have sounded if you said it 2 years ago, that Hawthorn are head and shoulders the best team in the comp right now. They were 16th on the ladder, looking like they were deep into a sort of 5-year rebuild like North was. But they have just shot up in the last 18 to 24 months, like you couldn't imagine, I think they're number one right now.
I like it. I'll go straight into my hit. And it's, again, North themed, but they're finally competitive again.
Yep.
It took quite a few years for this rebuild to come through, but hats off to their recruitment. They were missing one thing, and that was experience. They went and got Parker, Caleb Daniel, and
Jack
Darling. And they all showed up today. Caleb Daniel did his thing. He was just solid out of the back. He's just a guy who's going to find targets. Parker, cool head, did his thing. Jack Darling brought the ball to ground.
Yep, and also kicked a couple of goals, big marks in the forward line for Jack Darling.
But they have talent everywhere. As we said, Tristan Sherry, I think, is going to be All-Australian right. Comben was your number one player of the round. LDU was big. Simkin was big. Sheasel had an off game for his standards today, and North still almost doubled the Demon score.
And Cam Zerha was huge, and so was Paul Curtis. And those two in the forward line, those are two guys who have sort of stuck it out through this entire rebuild. Two guys that have sort of made it through the fire, is what I was saying to Aiden before we started recording. There are so many players that have been thrown onto the field for North in the last 5 years during this rebuild, and you can just see the players that have passed the test. guys like those two, your Luke McDonalds, your Jai Simpkins, guys that have just been strong throughout, and they're now accompanied with talented youngsters and experience.
I mean, on top of that, McKercher is probably going to break out more this year. Tom Powell, so far this year, looks to be having a breakout year, I guess you could say. But yeah, North Melbourne. And when their forwards finally get one-on-one looks, when they're actually progressing the ball quickly from end to end, you can see how dominant they actually are and how talented they are.
Absolutely. My miss for this week, to change the note, is Essendon. I mentioned it earlier, Zach Merritt needs help, but when you look at this squad wide, the quality of football that they provided this week, it's not just poor in terms of skill level, it was quite embarrassing in terms of the effort level. To be at home, bouncing back from a round one loss, which was not embarrassing, the loss against Hawthorn, but to be trying to bounce back against after that, and to have Adelaide players just strolling in on goal in front of Essendon's home fans. As early as late in the first quarter and early in the second quarter, it was really, really worrying in terms of what's going on in that locker room. What is the sort of respect that these players have for the mission ahead of them? And do they really believe that they're a finals team? I think it's very clear that they're not making the finals this year. They're, with a lot of teams becoming competitive now, who knows how low Essendon could finish. But it's a very, very worrying sign for Essendon fans who it feels like they have been going through a rebuild and then they've just regressed. So it's a bad one for Essendon.
And it's tough because at the start of the season they always interview Zach Merritt. And they're like, "What are you hopes for the season?" It's always finals.
Win a final.
We're always better. We've improved a lot in this preseason, and they come out and they deliver a performance like this. And like you said, it's just effort. And you can see if Richmond haven't got talent, nearly as much talent as Essendon, but if you put in effort, you can build out a performance. Same with West Coast.
Richmond last week.
100%. It's just effort. And Zach Merritt, 4 goals, 36. Someone's got to come along with it.
Yeah.
But I'll go into my miss. And we discussed it a lot in the podcast's last AFL season. It's the tagger, right? It's teams not taking away weapons. Now, this was evident to me in the Brisbane West Coast game because we saw Brisbane struggled against Sydney when they took away Lachie Neale and James Jordan locked him up. Zorko and Neale running freely, doing whatever they want on the entire ground. You've got to be able to take away weapons. Dacos running freely, had 39 touches. These guys have been proven to be able to be tagged.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't know whether it's an ego thing, but you can just send a rookie just to run with player, just to always have a man on them. Whenever they pick up the ball, bang, tackle. Just so they always know a guy's there. Sinclair in the Geelong game. Geelong aren't known to tag, but he was just running around freely, kicked 2 goals, 25 from halfback.
Yeah.
I could go through a whole host of other games, but teams that aren't giving respect to the good players on the other teams, I think are missing out.
And I think that this is like the thing that we're most passionate about, probably in terms compared to other people who chat about the AFL, is we really don't get why every team does not utilize the tagger every game. There's always a most impactful player on the other team, and you should not be letting him hurt you as much as he can. James Jordan, for example, who has become maybe the best tagger in the league.
I think comfortably the best tagger in the league.
Oh, Finn McGuinness, when Hawthorn use him as a tagger, is probably just as good.
But just off when he's not necessarily tagging as well as a player.
But the main message I have about James Jordan is that he was not a tagger until he joined the Swans 4 years into his career. At Melbourne, he was a really solid winger. Like, any team can take a guy who's got a good heart, is a smart player, and can run all day as a winger, and can turn them into a tagger by training them in that. Get in the practice games at the end of each training session. Just get them on your Isaac Heaney's, your Nick Dacos's. Just put your best tagger on them, and it also makes it trains up that guy to be a tagger, and it trains up your best player to deal with the tag. I think every team, if you don't already have a guy that's a known skilled tagger, should be training multiple guys up to do it.
100%, and it pains me every single week when you see these top guys running around freely. Good
Absolutely.
for Supercoach, though, we'll say.
And good for entertainment. Like, you sort of want to see Lachie Neale doing his thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
Not if you're a fan of the opposition team. And now we're going to go to Aiden's Footy Pyramid for the round.
It's always tough determining the footy pyramid when teams have byes, when players are injured, but I've done my best to weather the storm. Does weathering the storm just been kicking out all the GWS and Gold Coast players? No, but some have been demoted. Some have been promoted. We'll see. We have one out this week. It's Wiedering. He's out of the pyramid. Didn't have his best game this week, and I thought one guy really deserved to come in after his performances in the first 2 weeks, and that's Tristan Sherry. on the North theme for this episode. He comes in the 5th tier. Petrarca moves down a tier. He's now in the 5th tier. Had a quiet game. Spent a lot of time in the forward line again this week. Sarong moves down a tier. He was beaten by the tag, as we literally just discussed. And Will Day and Sicily hold their spots in the 5th tier. Moving up to the 4th tier, Lachie Neale moves up. We have seen what he can do when he is not tagged. Joining him, Sam Taylor will hold his spot on the bye. Jeremy Cameron moves down a spot. Didn't have much impact in the game against St Kilda. And Isaac Heaney moves down a spot. Again, wasn't his best game. Did have a run with in O'Meara. And Fremantle, who aren't known to tag, decided they wanted to tag Heaney today. Look what happens. He doesn't have the best game.
And O'Meara got 32 touches, leading the game by 6.
Look at that. Jordan tagged Sarong. Sarong didn't have a lot of influence. Jordan had 10 clearances.
Mm-hmm.
Moving up to the 3rd tier, Max Gawn comes down a tier. He's now on the 3rd tier. He started really high, but was smashed by Jerry today. I don't think there's any other way to put it. We've discussed it already. Noah Anderson's going to move up. Making up the 3rd tier, I had Zach Merritt, or Essendon, moving up 2 tiers. He's moved up from the 5th tier all the way to the 3rd tier, and I think it's deserved after his performances in the last 2 weeks. And I think he is another guy you have to tag. You tag him, you probably
what do they have?
I mean, genuinely, what do they have? Moving into the 2nd tier, Paddy Cripps moves up. He's just good, isn't he? He's probably going to pick up more votes in their loss again. Callahan, he's going to lose to the bye.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately. And again, it is Dacos's pyramid. He's on top. He's
Okay.
talented. Needs to be tagged. But let's see how long it takes for Callahan to dethrone him.
Would you like some of my feedback?
Go on.
Okay. Like the pyramid, players that I think you should be considering to knock out a couple of those midfielders. Like Will Day has not had the best couple of games.
Yeah.
Sam Darcy.
Yeah.
Tom de Koning.
Yeah.
And James Sicily.
Sicily's there.
Oh, he's in the 5th tier?
He's in the 5th tier.
Then Sam Darcy and Tom de Koning, I think, should be considered. But I don't mind the pyramid, but this is the real good segment where nothing ever goes wrong, and that's the power rankings. For the power rankings, as you know, it's vibes and form, and this is the most volatile time of the year where huge sweeping changes will be made, where we're just sort of getting our idea of where these teams sit. So big changes have to be made.
And just before he starts, you'll see last week's power rankings just about here on the screen.
Absolutely. We start off with a team that is not changing, and that's West Coast. It feels weird putting them at 18 because they were way ahead of Brisbane for about half of that match, and then Brisbane just turned it around at the Gabba.
Kicked the first 5 goals.
And I absolutely love to see it because what we're sort of seeing right now is I think we have like 17 and a half competitive teams. I think West Coast and Richmond are both like 3/4 competitive. But it's better than it has been where you just have maybe 2 or 3 teams finishing on 1 or 2 wins. I think West Coast and Richmond have both shown that they can take it to some of the hotshots. Number 16, and I considered having them lower, are Essendon. We've already talked about how they performed.
Dropping 4 spots.
Yes, but I think that they are maybe one of only 3 or 4 teams that really can't make finals, in my opinion. Just the level of football that they played is should be below Richmond and West Coast, but it's the talent that they have on their list compared to these 2 teams and the experience which keeps them slightly ahead of them. I'll swing through some. Carlton move up 1. They put up a competitive display against Hawthorn. I guess I have them very, very low, but I just don't think that they're up there with those teams. I don't think they have a good game plan. Talked about this in depth last week. I don't think Voss has the making the most of their talent. Next up is St Kilda, who I have absolutely no clue what to make of. What do you think, Aiden?
I'm really conflicted because last week you asked me what we make of the teams that got blown out, and we said St Kilda are in trouble because they have a talented list. They've gone through this rebuild, and are they regressing even more? And we just saw this, so I'm as confused as you are.
Yeah, well, they showed that they played a completely different brand to what they played in week 1. Maybe they just got an incredibly good spray from Ross Lyon. Yeah. We know that that's worked before in Fremantle and St Kilda teams, so maybe that was it. But I think they're just one where they could shoot way up or all the way back down, just depending on what we see in the next few weeks, because we've seen 2 very different teams so far in round 1 and 2. Next up is Port Adelaide. Now, I'm judging them more on their round 1 performance than their round 2 performance because, as I said earlier, this performance against Richmond may have been a bit soft. I watched the whole game and it was quite easy for them to transition the ball against a very, very inexperienced team. So I'd like to see them do something against a contender, because they played one game against a contender and lost by 91 points. Next up is Melbourne, who are the biggest droppers of this round. They dropped by 5 places, which is it's pretty big, and that's based on the fact that they weren't even able to compete with North Melbourne today. Yes, we're very excited by North Melbourne, but Melbourne should really, really be competing and not losing by 59, I think it was. What today maybe showed me, which concerned me, is that Gorn, Oliver and Petrarca sort of officially passed it. Oliver was really good today, but are we past the days of consistently getting 8+ out of 10 performances from all 3 of them?
But even that, did you see the Melbourne forward line?
Oh, it's very weak.
It's very weak. It's also the guys around them, as in Petrarca wasn't awful today. Gorn had a quiet game. Oliver was great. But even if those 3 fire, there's just not a lot going on in front of the ball.
Yeah, we just saw they sent it forward, and then a relatively inexperienced North back line, but which is very talented with guys like Charlie Combin, and Aiden Cole was actually very good today.
I was going to say, if you can make Aiden Cole look good.
We've put a bit of hate on Aiden Cole before, but yeah, he doesn't usually dominate forward lines. He just sort of plays a role, and he dominated all the key forwards all day.
Yeah.
So Melbourne's got a lot of issues in that forward line. Good point. In 11, I've got Freo, and yes, they're 0-2, and you'd think maybe they should be lower than this, but I'm still going to go off the vibes in this case rather than the form, where I believe in their list, and I believe them to have a bit of a turnaround. I think I actually didn't get to watch the game today, so this is not a very informed placing right here, but I think Fremantle have so much talent in their list that they have to find it at some point. North Melbourne in 10. And I really like this for them. I think it represents where they are, which is, and I honestly, if I had to guess where they're finishing in the ladder this year, I'd be telling you 10 to 11 if I had to put a guess right now. I loved the way they played today. Just Aiden and I were rattling off names earlier, but they really do have a good team now. They're not just exciting youngsters, they are a good team. Next up, Adelaide in number 9. A lot of people, I think, would have Adelaide as high as top 4 right now, because they have 172% or something. They're coming second in the league on the ladder, and they're just killing it. But I think they've had 2 performances against teams that are not going to contend this year. Essendon, who were very poor, and St Kilda, who also, they've just been Adelaide forwards rolling into the forward line free and unguarded 2 weeks in a row. That is not going to happen every game. Yes, their forwards have a great work rate, but it's not going to happen every game, and they're going to have to come up against better defences. And I'm keen to see that. I'm keen to see if Adelaide can jump up here.
North Melbourne next week.
I think that'll be a great battle, better than their first 2. Next up, the Bulldogs. A tight loss to Collingwood really could have gone either way.
Yep. And
I think this is not something that the Bulldogs want to see, but this is about where they've sat every week for about 6 years straight, since 2018 or 19.
And they've been in about between 8 and 12 in your power rankings since we started this podcast.
So who knows if they can find more than this. They don't have Bontempelli right now. They actually don't have Treloar. So it's quite impressive. They won their round 1 game against an exciting North Melbourne and almost got over the line against Collingwood, given that they have these outs. But my favourite thing about them is their forward line, all their key forwards. It's really, really fun seeing Darcy, Ugle-Hagan and Norton all together. Next up is Gold Coast, who, did they go up 1 spot with their bye? Yep, congratulations. Well rested, go up 1 spot. Next up is Sydney, who keep their spot with a very tight win that they just absolutely needed. They just needed to win that. I would have had to drop them down if they didn't get across the line. And so it makes you wonder what the meaning is of these sorts of things, because Swans just don't kick. Amadi just shanks that final kick, and Swans are probably the exact same team, but I dropped them 3-4 places in this.
0-3 going into the bye.
Yep, so that was just an absolutely must-needed win and gives them probably a mental break that they needed.
Yeah.
5th, Collingwood. Keep their spot as well, because they got the result that they needed, but nothing more. Didn't impress more than that by showing some sort of dominance. There was none of that. It really just arm wrestle with the Bulldogs. 4th is Geelong, who dropped 3 spots after losing a game that they really shouldn't have lost. I was thinking, do I need to drop them a lot more here? Also, the biggest consideration here, are they just a completely different team home and away? Are they? This is what they've been accused of sometimes over the last, for years and years is they're the best team in the league at home, but are they just mediocre away? So they're going to have to prove the people that say that wrong if they want to go and win at the MCG at the end of the year.
Massive test against Brisbane at the Gabba next week.
Yeah, that'll show, are they a team that can compete with the best at away from home, outside of GMHBA. Speaking of Brisbane, I have them at 3. So 2 of the top 4 teams in my power rankings coming up against each other. That'll be huge. Brisbane, again, not hugely impressive this week, but great second half against West Coast. Number 2, GWS, who I believe they go up 1 spot with the bye, with Geelong dropping. And then in number 1, as I mentioned earlier, Hawthorn. Flaghawks, absolutely the team to beat. I'm not missing a Hawthorn game this year. I said this in the pre-round 1 podcast. I'm not going to miss a Hawthorn game this year because
GWS on Saturday night.
Those will be the 2 best games of the round, won't they? Hawthorn, GWS, and Brisbane, Geelong.
Top 4 in your power rankings are meeting.
At the same time, everyone's going to have to sort out some sort of monitor setup.
Split screen on KO if you don't know about it. Get to know.
Yeah. So, going to have to sort something out, but 2 unmissable games there.
I like it. Once again, join our Supercoach League. Code is above our heads, top of the screen.
And it's been there the whole episode.
Been there the entire episode, crazy enough. And we'll see you all in the next one.